There is absolutely zero doubt in my mind that Rachel Meghan Markle was a semi-expensive yacht girl, and she knows it.
It started with a whisper. No cameras, no microphones, no flashing lights. Just a moment of careless conversation that would soon reach every corner of Buckingham Palace. The Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, had been in the public eye long enough to know that one wrong word can turn into a storm. But this time, she didn't seem to care. Some say it happened at a private charity dinner. Others insist it was a quiet conversation over wine with a few trusted friends. Either way, the words left her lips and the damage was done. "People forget," she allegedly said with that signature Fergie grin. Meghan's first royal connection wasn't Harry.
Wasn't there some speculation that she was on Epstein's yacht at one point in time? There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like in her early 20s.
Wow. No, I haven't heard that one. No.
Just like that, silence. Glasses froze midair. The room, once filled with polite laughter, turned electric. What did she mean by that? Was it a joke, a jab, or something much deeper? Something that hinted at a truth no one was supposed to repeat aloud? By dawn, whispers had become headlines. By nightfall, the palace press office was on high alert. The phrase Fergie and Meghan dominated social media, and commentators began to ask the unthinkable. Why would Sarah Ferguson, of all people, take a public swipe at Meghan Markle? Because this wasn't just a random dig from an outsider. This was family, a duchess who's seen the monarchy's inner workings up close, who's survived her own scandals, and who knows exactly how to use a single sentence to shift an entire conversation. Her words hit like lightning, cutting through the royal silence that had held for years. And suddenly, Meghan Markle, the woman who once walked away from the crown, found herself dragged back into it, one whisper at a time. Inside Buckingham Palace, aides panicked. Phones rang. Meetings multiplied. No one dared to say it out loud, but everyone was thinking the same thing. If Fergie's comment was true, it could reopen the monarchy's deepest wounds. And if it wasn't, why would she say it at all? Because when you're a royal, truth matters less than timing. And Fergie's timing was brutal. Her offhand remark didn't just spark curiosity, it triggered crisis. In a matter of hours, the story took on a life of its own, twisting through headlines, talk shows, and online forums until it no longer mattered what was real. It had become royal currency, traded in shock, speculation, and scandal. Meghan's name was trending again, not for her work, not for her brand, but for something she didn't say, and never could defend without making it worse. The silence surrounding her became deafening, and behind that silence, something bigger was brewing. Because Sarah Ferguson had done what only she could do, turn one sentence into a storm. And this time, the winds were blowing straight toward Montecito. At first, it wasn't even a story, just a whisper from a private dinner that somehow found its way into the wrong inbox. A message forwarded twice, then screenshotted, then posted anonymously to a Royal Watch forum under the title, "You Won't Believe What Fergie Said." Within hours, that single post spread like wildfire. By sunrise, a handful of online commentators were already dissecting every word, asking the same question in a dozen different tones. Did Sarah Ferguson really say that about Meghan Markle? By mid-morning, tabloids caught the scent. Reporters called every insider they knew. Stylists, security staff, old friends. Anyone who might confirm or deny the quote, but no one could. And that uncertainty made it even more irresistible. Soon, what had started as rumor turned into breaking news. Phrases like alleged comment and according to sources began appearing in headlines. The words themselves blurred with every retelling, morphing from whisper to warning, from offhand remark to deliberate attack. Television hosts replayed the same footage of Fergie smiling at past events, narrating over it as though the expression itself were evidence. Royal correspondents debated her motives on live air. Was it jealousy? Was it revenge? Or was it the unfiltered honesty of a duchess who's been burned too many times to care? Across social media, fan accounts went into overdrive. TikToks appeared within minutes, using dramatic piano loops and captions like, "The comment Buckingham Palace doesn't want you to hear." Clips racked up millions of views before the palace had even opened its gates for the morning. Inside the royal press office, aides scrolled in disbelief. They'd dealt with rumors before, but this one was different. This wasn't a faceless blogger or an unnamed source. This was a duchess, a royal by blood and history, suddenly painted as the instigator of a scandal she hadn't yet acknowledged. Emails began flying between departments. "Do we respond?" one advisor asked. "Absolutely not," another replied. Silence is strategy, but silence doesn't work the way it used to. The monarchy's old rule, never complain, never explain, doesn't stand a chance in the era of 24-hour social media. Every minute of silence was treated as confirmation. Every no comment felt like an admission. By the time evening papers hit London streets, the narrative had already escaped them. Fergie's alleged remark wasn't a rumor anymore. It was a headline, complete with photos, reaction quotes, and late-night talk show jokes. And somewhere across the ocean in Montecito, Meghan Markle's phone buzzed with messages from friends, staff, and family, each one asking the same impossible question. Did you see what she said? For Meghan, it was a story she never asked to be part of. A storm she couldn't stop, fueled not by proof, but by curiosity. Because once a royal whisper hits the internet, it stops being a whisper. It becomes an echo, one that bounces around the world long after the truth is lost. To understand why Fergie's words hit so hard, you have to understand Fergie herself. Sarah Ferguson has spent her entire life balancing on the line between insider and outsider. She's the Duchess who knows the system, and the Duchess the system can't control. She's been loved, hated, exiled, and forgiven, all in one lifetime. Every scandal she's survived has made her more unpredictable, more unfiltered, and more dangerous to a monarchy built on discretion. So when she speaks, even casually, people listen, not because she's powerful, but because she's unpredictable. Fergie knows where the cracks are. She knows what the public wants to hear and what the palace doesn't want to admit. So when she makes an offhand remark about Meghan Markle, it isn't dismissed as gossip. It's treated like prophecy, and that's exactly what happened here. Her few words, ambiguous, provocative, almost playful, were interpreted in every direction imaginable. Was she taking a jab? Was she deflecting attention from something else? Or was she simply being, well, Fergie, impulsive, mischievous, and unfiltered to a fault? When the story broke, Meghan Markle's team reportedly went silent. No denials, no statements, just a pause, the kind that feels louder than any response. Inside their Montecito home, insiders described tension. Harry was reportedly blindsided. He's used to the press dragging his wife, but not his family fueling the fire. To him, this wasn't another tabloid rumor. This was internal. Behind the scenes, communications advisors scrambled. Should they respond publicly and risk giving it oxygen, or let it burn out on its own? The Sussexes have spent years trying to separate themselves from the royal drama, and yet, somehow, it always finds them again. In private, Meghan was said to be deeply hurt. She's been called many things by the press, but this felt different. It came from someone who once welcomed her into the fold. For Meghan, it wasn't just about reputation, it was about trust. And what happens when even family can't be relied upon to stay silent? If you're following every twist in Meghan's post-royal journey, hit that bell. The next chapter is always closer than you think. When the story reached palace aides, they did what they always do in times of crisis. They closed ranks. No one confirmed, no one denied. Every request for comment met with the same 5 words: we do not comment on speculation. But behind the gilded gates, it was anything but calm. Crisis meetings were reportedly held. Aides drafted talking points. Even senior royals were briefed on the situation. To the outside world, the palace looked unbothered. Inside, it was quiet panic. Not because the rumor was necessarily true, but because perception is everything. And in the modern age, perception can rewrite history faster than the truth can catch up. If Buckingham Palace was silent, the internet was not. Within hours, social media had split in two. Half believed Fergie's comment was innocent, misinterpreted, or even fabricated. The other half took it as confirmation of everything they already suspected about royal politics, that there's always more beneath the surface. TikTokers broke down body language. YouTubers analyzed the quote frame by frame. Journalists tried to verify, but the story had already evolved beyond facts. It wasn't about what was said anymore, it was about what people wanted to believe. And that's the problem with royal gossip. It doesn't need evidence, it just needs emotion. If you want stories that separate media hysteria from reality, subscribe, and stay one step ahead of the spin. Days passed. Reporters cornered Sarah Ferguson at a charity event, asking if she regretted her words. She smiled, that trademark Fergie grin, and said nothing. That was all it took. Her silence became its own statement. Royal insiders whispered that she'd been advised to step back. Others suggested she didn't see a problem at all. In a family where words are weighed like gold, silence can feel like thunder. And Fergie's refusal to clarify left everyone else to fill in the blanks. To the palace, that was the worst outcome possible. Because when the public doesn't have facts, it makes its own. For Meghan Markle, this scandal arrived at the worst possible time. After months of rebranding efforts, public goodwill was slowly returning. A lifestyle brand in motion, projects in development, momentum was finally back. But this dragged her right back into royal headlines. The same territory she'd worked so hard to leave behind. The more she stayed quiet, the louder the speculation grew. The irony is brutal. The less Meghan says, the more everyone else speaks for her. And that silence, whether intentional or strategic, keeps the narrative alive. Because deep down, this isn't about Fergie versus Meghan, it's about what their dynamic represents. Both women walked into the same palace. Both women learned how cold it could be. And both women learned what happens when you step outside the royal rulebook. Maybe that's why Fergie's words hit so hard. Not because of what she said, but because people believe she's the one person who might know. And maybe, just maybe, her remark was never about Meghan at all. Maybe it was about herself. A mirror held up to a system that devours the women who dare to challenge it. In royal life, silence is strategy. Words are weapons, and sometimes the smallest sentence can start the biggest war. Sarah Ferguson's comment, whether joke, jab, or truth, opened a wound the monarchy thought had healed. A wound made of jealousy, class, rivalry, and fear. For Meghan, it was another reminder that she'll never fully escape the crown's shadow. For Fergie, it was proof that one remark can still make her the most unpredictable woman in Windsor. And for the royal family, it was a warning that in 2025, the greatest threat isn't scandal. It's the story they can't control. Because when the crown trembles, it's never the noise that destroys it. It's the whispers,